Oh, hello there. You're about to watch a video with Robert Alter, one of the great translators of our age, who translated the Hebrew Bible, the complete thing, into English, perhaps by accident. In this video, he's discussing who edited the Bible and why. Who are these nosy interventionist figures who are changing the words, some say, of the Lord, specifically regarding the books of Samuel. And this is an extract from a much larger interview in which Alter describes not only the changes made to the Bible, but the narrative of David, and we also discuss Nabokov's pale fire. So if you're interested in any of that, then the link is below. And just to let you know, we do have a Patreon, and we would very much welcome if you were to take out another mortgage. You can afford it. We both know that. And we can make a bit of money there and keep this show going till the end of time. Great, I'll just figure this out. You watch the video. Enjoy.
Here's how I look at it. The traditional believers over the ages, of course, thought of the Bible as a unitary text. When uh, academic scholarship, quote, scientific scholarship of the Bible came to the fore in 19th century Germany, there was a push to reconsider all such assumptions. And one of the impulses was, I think, quite justified to say, well, this is actually a composite text. It's a stitching together of different sources. And I don't resist that. Like I think that the first four books of the Pentateuch are definitely a composite of the J source, the E source, and the P source. But in the impulse to resist traditional ways of looking at all this and to be what the scholars thought was scientific, they look past the possibility that not invariably, but in a good many instances, the combination of sources was quite purposeful.
So the essence of it, they were aiming for an aesthetic or a meaningful effect in the combination. So it wasn't
Right.
merely that they thought, well, we have these two Genesis stories and we ought to report both of them, but
Just
rather they're in.
randomly. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get
Hmm.
it all in there. We've got to put it in the box. But rather that to combine them is in fact to say a third thing, and that to have David as the lyre player and David as the Goliath slayer isn't just to have two stories that don't quite blend, but two halves of the same character. And maybe we see these things too historically and too firmly.
Yeah, that's aptly stated. That is, there, of course, is a contradiction between the two introduction of David's stories, since in the first one, at the end of that story, he has become a kind of music therapist for Saul. He plays the lyre to him when he has these fits of mania. In the second story, um, at the end of it, after the slaying of Goliath, uh, Saul turns to his general Joab and says, "Who is this kid?" Now, of course, that makes no sense because he's supposedly been in the court for some time. So I think the editorial process was such that they had these two different stories. I think the Goliath story is probably a good deal later, and felt they couldn't tamper with the details of the story as they had found it. Uh, so they put one after the other, even though there are contradictions. But as you quite rightly say, these represent two aspects of David. On the one hand, he's the sweet singer of Israel, as the King James Version phrases it,
Mhm.
and he has a certain dominion over the realm of spirits. And the second one, he's a warrior hero.
Mm.
Yeah, there seems. Oh, go
Yeah,
on.
maybe something about this way it's composed is one of the reasons why David feels like the roundest character in the entire narrative Hebrew Bible. He feels like the human being with the most dimensions, perhaps precisely because he has internal contradictions. It's not as if Jacob or some of the prophets like Elias or Elisha are completely unambiguous figures, but David definitely has the most ambiguity lathered on him, the most overlapping narratives that aren't necessarily mutually reconcilable.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I would add the following. Um, the narrative follows David's changing through time,
Hmm.
which you don't find anywhere else in ancient narrative, except in the Hebrew Bible and the Jacob story as well. That is, at the beginning, he's this beautiful young man who exerts a kind of charisma, and he's repeatedly the object of the verb love. The people love him, women love him, and so forth. Um, then he becomes a kind of savvy practitioner of realpolitik as he moves to the kingship. Uh, then he becomes, in a way, a victim, I would even say, to his ruthless general Joab. And at the end of the story, you don't see anything like this elsewhere, as I say, in ancient narrative. You see poor old David, impotent, shivering in bed, and probably mentally befuddled.
Yeah. Um, it's almost like it reminded me this time reading it through of The Godfather for some reason. I think Al
No, me,
Pacino is,
me
yeah,
too. Me too. The last chapters of well, the first chapters of Kings, which you I think rightly say the last chapters of the David story, you have, he whispers his deathbed demand, kill these three
yeah,
people, and
yeah.
then you get the montage sequence at the end of the first Godfather film in which
Yeah.
Al Pacino becomes King Solomon and all of his rivals are executed in what I think is quite a cinematic form in the text. It's
Mhm.
quite briefly and sharply executed. You get the one and the next and the other. And I didn't miss in the commentary the Godfather is referenced directly a few times. There are a few offers that can't be refused.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. That is the the oral will and testament that he delivers on his deathbed to Solomon uh, is a hit list. He names two principal enemies and says, "You are a wise man, Solomon. You will know what to do." And Solomon's wisdom there is not like the wisdom of the two women who claim that the infant is their baby, but which is legendary, but it's the wisdom of how a person knows how to take care of his enemies. And an amusing thing about that, this is definitely an editorial um, intervention. After David names Joab and Shimei as the people that Solomon needs to take out, um, there is suddenly this speech in which David says to Solomon, and you shall walk in the ways of the Lord, and
Yeah.
you shall serve him with all your soul and with all your might. And it's a string of formulas from the book of Deuteronomy.
Mm.
And clearly, the editor, who was a Deuteronomist, couldn't quite stomach the Capo de Mafia, David. And so he plugged in this pious speech to try to counterbalance it.
Mm.
Yeah, I noticed. I mean, it's I guess standard affair for biblical commentaries to note where there are interpolations or possible interpolations in different traditions. And I noticed the sort of the spite and rage whenever the Deuteronomist interpolated because it ruins the story in a way. It sort
It
of
does.
undermines the drama. And I wonder if there was ever a temptation, and perhaps this is truly absurd to suggest, but a temptation simply to remove the Deuteronomist, to try and restore the book of Samuel as you identify it, book 1, 2, and the beginning of Kings, in a kind of purified narrative, or is that a completely ludicrous suggestion?
Well, it's a tempting idea.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you'd like to know whether Robert Alter truly would create an edition of the Book of Samuel without those Deuteronomist additions, then watch the full interview in the link down below. And just another reminder that we do have a Patreon, and we couldn't do this without your support, although it does appear that we have been doing this without your support so far. That is illusory.